What's up, everyone? It's your boy Marco Rojas here at another episode of Aquí Estamos. If you haven't had time to follow us on YouTube or on Instagram, on social media platforms, just follow us at Aquí Estamos Podcast. And also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you can find previous episodes that we have had. And yeah, man, let's get this episode going. Estamos para que todos sepan. So yeah, man, what's up, mi gente? I hope everyone is doing well. I haven't had a chance to really say Happy New Year's, Happy 2021 to all, everyone that's listening, to the familia, to the amigos and amigas. You know, I want to make sure that I let everyone know that it's been a blessing to just be part of this community that I've been part of for so long, and just wishing everyone a happy 2021. You know, it's been pretty hectic these last few months, but I know that in these episodes and what we're going to talk about is going to be key in trying to make our comunidades even better, right? So I want to give a shout out to just everyone that has been pushing hard and trying to do their best to make sure that their voices are being heard in las comunidades, politically, socially, and even in education as well. And y'all know that I'm a teacher, so I know that it's been hectic for me, build curriculum. Not only that, but also be part of a comunidad too, that we're trying to push a new curriculum for ethnic studies, because we see ethnic studies now as a valuable course that needs to be taught throughout, you know, all 4 years. So just hoping for the support for la comunidad that we get, that we can get everyone on board and trying to push ethnic studies to be a vital class in the high school requirements, you know. So I just want to use this episode to just first off, you know, I know we're in 2021, but 2020, I know we faced a lot of hardship, especially in the Latino communities. And so I want to give just some commemoration of all and just love and support to everyone that has lost a loved one during these times of COVID-19, and not just COVID-19, but anybody's lost loved ones regarding, you know, health, or just unfortunately their time has come to an end here on earth. But I want to show my love and support in this moment. Also, I really want to just talk about a little bit about those Latino leaders, Latinx leaders that we lost in 2020. The father of Chicano literature, Rodolfo Anaya, who was the author of Bless Me Ultima and other inspirational Chicano books that really awarded him so many accolades, you know, throughout his life. Even in 2016, President Obama gave him a medal of the National Humanities the National Humanities Medal and all that. So, you know, we lost him at, you know, early on in 2020. And, you know, I want to make sure we talk about his legacy a little bit and just show that, you know, even his books has inspired me to read more regarding my cultura and the literature that goes behind it, you know. And we also wanted to talk about Naya Rivera, the 33-year-old actress that was, you know, that lost her life as well. She was a huge advocate for the LGBTQ community, and she had earned so many awards, especially in American Latino Media Arts Awards, just for not only her acting, but her singing. She was Afro-Latina, but she was a huge representation and advocate for not only LGBTQ rights, but immigrant rights, women rights, and she became a representation through her art. And we have to understand art is a huge thing when we talk about representation of our own culture, because our art is so beautiful, and sometimes it's never displayed to its full capabilities. We lost a lot of leaders and a lot of Latinos and Latinx folks that really represented our cultura to the fullest. You know, we have the stories of Vanessa Guillen when, you know, throughout the news, a 20-year-old Army veteran soldier, and, you know, a daughter of inmigrantes mexicanas going missing in Fort Hood, Texas, and literally went months missing until they found her bodies. And she lost her life to a fellow soldier and an accomplice with him. So it was one of those things like, where was the protection on that, and it's such a sad story. And if you haven't had really that much time, I really recommend there's a lot of not documentaries, but a lot of news stories that, talked about her story about how she went missing, so we just, want to use this time to also commemorate her impact and her service as well. Because our gente has always served in the military, which I've also talked about in previous episodes, And another Chicano activist, but also a scholar, Juan Gomez Quiñones, he died also this year at age 80, but he was a Chicano studies scholar from Boyle Heights. And he mentored, challenged, and inspired so many throughout this year, that those that are still to this day, making an impact, not only in the Chicano comunidades, but also Latinos as a whole. But there's just so many, 2020 is one of those years that we're going to reflect and think about how many we have lost. And whether it was regarding those that have been actors or actresses, to those that have made music, to creating literature books and mentoring a new wave generation of scholars that are pushing forward and just really focusing and investing in their education, So my heart goes out to all those that lost their loved ones, to even the Latinx leaders this past year. But if we really have to think about, like, even for myself, creating this podcast, I wouldn't be here to this day without the work that these individuals created, because it has motivated me to not only focus on pushing a new wave of scholars and educated kids into college and into the workforce, but also for myself to take risk and create my own art and my own passions and move forward with that, So I'm thankful, and I have to use 2021 to improve not only my comunidades, but hopefully to those that are listening to me as well. Man, but 2021, man, has come up with some crazy, I ain't afraid to say, it's some shit that has been going on recently. January was one of those months where we had to reflect and think, where are we as a nation? Because going back to January 6th, I know talking about the Capitol rights seems like it's so long ago, but yet it's so relevant even to today. Like, I'm recording this and this is February 2nd, and yet we're still feeling the aftermath of this Capitol riot that had taken place. And for me, this is something that I know will go down in history as one of those treason moments of not only President Trump's administration, but all those that had allied with them. For the longest, I've been saying, had it been black and brown bodies that participated in this movement, I'm telling you, there'd be more deaths than just 5 deaths. I really do believe so. I believe to this day that there's still some racial tension that nobody wants to talk about. They think that, whether those that align themselves more conservative will say that the race card is being overused. And we hear it a lot from individuals that participate in political dialogues to news TV anchor hosts, etc. However, this race card, or this ethnic background card, whatever people want to call it, it is something that we need to really think about. I want to dive deep on this, because if we don't talk about this, we could see this continuing moving forward, right? And for me, when I say more deaths would have happened with black and brown bodies, I really do believe so, because I really feel that when you get a coalition of folks that are minorities, that for the longest, if you look in news, the media, how they talk about black and brown folks, for so many years, tying them to crime, to drugs, to gangs. And then when you put them trying to politically be active and make change because of oppression, I know that some folks would have responded differently. how would they have targeted these black and brown folks, right? And I know when we're looking back at this 10, 15 years down the road, we're going to be thinking, how did we get there? But for the longest, we've been here. And it's been like this since day one. So when I think back and I reflect about January 6th, we have to really think about, okay, what transpired? Trump's rhetoric. What did he say? He wanted to make sure to push forward and have folks, we're not going to stop. We're going to stop this election. This was a fraud. Hypes up the folks, hypes up the white allied supporters, extremists, rioters. All these names can coexist with them. But we need to talk about the reality of the situation when we think about individuals who participate in this action. There was a lot of individuals that were able to not be apprehended and not get in trouble for this. But yet when we're talking about a movement in the summer of the BLM movements, we're talking about folks that have been arrested, have been, deemed as just basically deemed as a threat to society. But then when we see what transpired in January 6th, there is just no way black and brown folks would have gotten that same treatment. And you can agree or disagree with me. That's fine. I don't mind that. But when you really put the facts together, you will see what really transpired between the rioters and the folks that participated in that treason on January 6th to those that were in the summer during the Black Lives Matter movement who were fighting for equal change. Lastly, I just want to talk about COVID-19 and where we're at right now to those folks that are living in San Joaquin Valley all the way down to California, throughout the United States. Our numbers aren't great. Deaths are high, pero nuestros Latinos were still affected at higher rates than any other ethnic group, right? But we need to really talk about, all right, with Biden's task and Biden's administration trying to move forward, we need to see what's going on regarding vaccinations and how it's plagued us basically so far. According to a news article I was just reading the other day, the U.S. News, racial disparities seen in the United States vaccination drive. This was according to U.S. News, right? A few things that stood out to me that I wanted to share. Number one, Hispanic people also lagged behind vaccinations. President Joe Biden is trying to bring more equity to the vaccine rollout. Biden's administration is encouraging states to map and target vulnerable neighborhoods using such tools as the CDC Social Vulnerability Index, which incorporates data on race, poverty, crowding, housing, and other factors. So right now, what it was basically saying, it just had me thinking, right? Like, once again, nuestra gente is always in the back burner. We're the first ones to be called in to do these jobs that nobody wants to do. And the fact that, not only are we the larger target with individuals of COVID positive testing, we also are seeing that now we might be the highest ethnic group with COVID positive tests, but we also aren't getting the vaccinations needed to protect us from this deadly virus. We're having a lot of folks que se estamos muriendo, in these times, and yet these vaccinations aren't even provided for us, or if they are, they're not sufficient enough to take care of us, not providing enough resources for us, and you got to think about these states. I'll give some states an example, and I did not use New York or California because they didn't come up with these numbers, and they haven't come out with them yet. They haven't disclosed them. So when I get those numbers, man, I can't wait to talk about them. But just some states in particular. Maryland, Hispanic of any race Hispanics in Maryland are about 11% of the population in Maryland, but 5% of Hispanics are getting that vaccine. In Philadelphia, Hispanics make up 15% of the population and only receive 4% of the vaccines. And in Chicago, Hispanics make up 29% of the population and only 17% are getting vaccinated. So having dialogue with folks around the comunidades, we're asking these questions. So why are Latinos not being taken care of, right? And it's worrisome to me because it's like, what do we do moving forward? But, a lot of folks it could be a multiple things. I really do believe that, the narrative regarding this deadly virus it's still been taken lightly, even though we know it's killed a lot of folks. A lot of folks don't feel confident in the vaccine. And what I mean by confident vaccine, I'm talking about, how can nuestra gente put something in their body and not know what it's going to do to them, right? We don't know what the effect it's going to have on our body. So we're misinformed. Some folks telling us, hey, if you put this, you're basically putting COVID in your body, which isn't true, actually. COVID-19, the vaccine, it's like traces of it so that it can build immunity to it and fight basically the virus itself. It's not exactly like the flu virus, though. But what I have come to learn so far, like I'm not an expert on this, but, it is not basically putting in the COVID-19 in you, right? And so that's what I've been hearing. But if you think about just nuestras comunidades all across the United States, we have to think about what narrative are they hearing? Are they hearing that this vaccine is the actual virus and is actually scaring us to not want to take the test? That's a possibility, right? Because we don't have the resources. Not everybody has the equitable resources to find out what exactly these vaccines have in them. And so it really is going to be important to educate and share those information, to the people for sure. And, another article that I thought was very important was, I believe it was where it said Hispanics were receiving COVID-19 vaccine at much lower rates than white Americans. And it really talked about Florida, because Latinos in Florida have experienced the infections more than twice than whites. And that's what the data shows us. But yet they're being vaccinated at lower rates. So now it's really coming down to Latino federations and organizations to protect them. And have been putting on pressure on the governor DeSantis, who is actually an ally to President Trump, and really making it an effort for the governor to address the cultural barriers. Now, when I'm talking about cultural barriers, y'all, I'm talking about things that make it hard for nuestra gente to understand what they're putting in their body. It could be the language, right? Making sure the language is very clear to them. Like, hey, this is what it is, and make sure to take this, or this is what it's going to do, and this is helpful on this spread of the disease. So these cultural barriers that they're putting out and making sure that the governor puts it out there, like, listen, this is what we need to do. This is the most important part, is that these federations, these organizations are making it known that these are barriers, language is barriers, and making sure that they are accessible to the gente también, right? Making sure that they're in areas where there are higher Hispanic populations, because it's tough when the resources aren't there for them, and it's the hard part, right? Because, our gente need to have folk, basically in order to do something or take action, we have to have trust regarding these individuals. So if these organizations, these federations don't have trust on these politicians, on what they're saying, nor these organizations, what information are they going to use, or what are they going to take in, basically, and come up with their own ideas and basically lead to their actions moving forward? Because if they don't trust what's being put out there right now, then they won't take the precautions and vaccinations that they need to stay safe and healthy. And when they go out to the world to go work and provide for their family, it affects them, because then they get sick, and then affects their family, and other members get sick. And then it just becomes a cycle. So we have to make sure the information is valuable. It's information that it's comprehensible para nuestra gente, but also when they have the information, they have the information, they can move forward and make it accessible so that they can take action. And the crazy thing, man, is that when I got COVID, I didn't know what to trust. I didn't know what I should do moving forward. So I know that I have the opportunity, or when the opportunity comes, because as an educator, we're going to have the option of taking the vaccinations. But what does it mean when somebody that has already gotten it, like myself? Will the vaccinations would it be effective for someone like myself? So that's what's going to be key. So if I'm thinking these things, right? If I'm having these questions, imagine, okay, nuestra gente does. What do they believe that is this going to be helpful moving forward? So we have to take these things into consideration. My heart goes out to las familias que están afectados, to everyone out there that's really listening. And I pray that, as we move forward to this next presidential administration, that this administration really takes our values and our desires to move forward and put them into action, roll with it and move forward, right? So we'll see what happens. So much to talk about. We have a new president. That doesn't mean that we still stop fighting para nuestras comunidades, y'all. Much love. Estamos para que todos sepan